Hello and welcome to South Bay Sports Radio. Here's your host, Nick Ingram.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into another episode of South Bay Sports Radio. I'm your host, Nick Ingram. I'm here with Daily Breeze's own Damian Calhoun. Week 9 is officially upon us. Damian, where has the time gone?
It flies by. You think about you start in late July, early August, working on preseason stuff. Then you go right into this year a double week 0, and then week 0 and 1 and all that, and it's done. This is by far the fastest season I think I've ever covered.
We may not be live, but let's see. What did I do? Regardless, on today's episode, we hear from Inglewood Milvon James after a huge victory over Mira Costa leading up to Palos Verdes. Mira Costa, a glimpse into what's been working for the West Torrance Warriors football team, and a bit from Bishop Montgomery girls volleyball coach Tawnee Luafalemana. That's right. I made sure to say that 9 times before I asked her what her last name was. First, fire up your DeLorean or that hot tub time machine, because here we go. This week in history. October 20th, 1963, Jim Brown set the single-season rushing mark with 1,863 yards. October 20th, 1974, Frank Robinson becomes the first African-American manager in Major League Baseball. October 22nd, 1903, the first World Series takes place. The Boston Pilgrims defeat the Pittsburgh Pirates in 8 games. October 22nd, 1845, Damian, this one's for you. What is believed to be the first baseball box score printed in a newspaper appears in the New York Herald. Do you miss submitting box scores with your game stories?
For football?
For any sport.
Well, we still run them in the daily, SoCal News Group for football. I mean, for baseball and basketball, I think. For football, we used to do it at the Orange County Register a lot. I think they still do it. Maybe they do it online. It was a lot of work. But I don't know. What I try and do now is keep a tab of somebody like the quarterback if I can. But sometimes I can't, and I just have to wait for the stats to get in, put it on Max Preps nowadays. But it is fun though to keep your stats, your running stats as you're running down the sideline or sitting in the press box.
It is fun. It is also stressful because you're like, wait, I didn't get that. I didn't see that. Who got that tackle?
Yeah, that's another thing too. Especially as you get older, you sit in the press box and your eyes are like, what number is that? 26, 28? What number is that?
They all blend together. I did that last week. I was like, wait a second, wasn't that you? No, that was him.
Yeah.
My bad. I'll take that as knowing that I'm slowing down. All right. October 22nd, 2000, Bengals running back Corey Dillon runs for 278 yards, breaking Walter Payton's single-game rushing record. Here's one that you love. Pablo Sandoval, October 24th, 2012, hits 3 home runs in Game 1 of the World Series against Detroit. Can you name the other 3 players that he joined in hitting 3 home runs in a World Series game?
Reggie Jackson?
That's one.
Man. That's all I got.
Babe Ruth and Albert Pujols.
Hopefully we get Shohei to that list this week.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think the Blue Jays will be smart to pitch to him.
No, they're not going to pitch to him every time.
No, not even close. October 24th, 1959, Wilt Chamberlain makes his debut. Same date, 1978, the original Halloween movie was released. And October 26th, 1984, you've got Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, John Stockton making their debuts, and Terminator hits theaters. October 26, 2005, the White Sox win the franchise's first title in nearly 100 years. And October 27, 2004, Boston wins its first title since 1914, sweeping the St. Louis Cardinals. I like firing up the DeLorean because without history, where would we be today? All right. One last thing before we move on. As you all know, the Dodgers are in the World Series. Franchise's 23rd trip to the Fall Classic and the 5th time they've been in the World Series since 2017. It's going to be against the Blue Jays, who are one of the last teams to win back-to-back World Series, aside from the Yankees. And that last one, we remember it as, I believe it's Bob Costas' voice saying, touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run. Sadly, Seattle remains the last franchise without a World Series appearance. What's your thought process? I know you're staying home to watch games and follow the Twitter feeds tomorrow of all the games that we're at, but what's your thought process on the series upcoming?
It's going to be tough, of course. I mean, it's the World Series, right? Starting off on the road. I mean, tough place to play, The Dodger bullpen always going to scare me no matter what. Scared me from day one this season till now. And let's just see how, people saying, could the layoff hurt them? The layoff could help them because their offense wasn't really firing on all cylinders really in that Milwaukee series. So maybe they can the time off gave them a little time to, focus on some things and get some guys a little bit more healthy, like Muncy and those guys a little healthy, and hopefully they come out and take care of business. But it's going to be a tough week. If you see me at any game, just know I'm walking on eggshells with the Dodgers.
I will be at a game with the game in my ear tomorrow night, hoping that I'm not extremely distracted, because I think I listened to that 15-inning game when I was doing the San Pedro banning game. And as the banning San Pedro game ended, the Seattle walked off. And so I had no idea what happened. I go, oh, Seattle won. That's awesome.
Like last year, Game 1 World Series, I was walking the sideline at a Costa Leuzinger game, and I was like, "Oh man, I saw the Grand Slam."
Well, Freddie Freeman Grand Slam. We were camping.
Yeah, had a bunch of kids crowding around me and say, "Hey, you guys better back up." And I was more to find out, get you guys in trouble.
Right. I think the biggest thing with this would be just not overestimating what Toronto can do. I know that they're the American, they're not the Dodgers. They don't have the payroll that the Dodgers do, but they did come out of the American League East. They do have a pitching staff that features Kevin Gausman, Max Scherzer, and Justin Bieber, regardless of the fact that he's not the Justin Bieber that he was, Shane Bieber that he was when he was with Cleveland. But, George Springer, Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette's going to play. I honestly think that if the Blue Jays don't make mistakes like the Brewers did, that this could be a 6-7 game series. I really think that the Brewers shot themselves in the foot by making mistakes. I think Game 1 was the Brewers' game to win. You got to wear that pitch on the thigh with the bases loaded and you're down by 1 run. And then I think it was Game 3 where you're trailing 2-1 and you go to pick off a runner at first with runners on first and third and allow a run to score. Like, mistakes happen. I get that. But on the game's biggest stage where you've got a shot at making the World Series, the Brewers haven't been in the World Series since 84, 85. You've got to clean up anything, take a breath, relax, and go. So while I'd know that the Dodgers are the heavy favorites, the Blue Jays also are playing with, the house cards. They've got Don Mattingly as their bench coach. What really do they have to lose? They've got an entire country behind them in Toronto, and, most people that dislike the Dodgers rooting for them as well. So
yeah, but if you dislike the Dodgers, I don't like you.
Oh, he's out with it. I don't dislike the Dodgers. It's
all fun. It's all fun, man. It's the World Series. I mean, the Dodgers are. I mean, they had those valleys when McCourt was running the things, and they're out of that, and now they're sort of like, I guess, the big bully around now. And hey, I'm enjoying the run. I mean, because back in the '80s, after the late '80s. It was after 88, they hit a down spot, and then, McCourt came in, things was all crazy and everything. But now, hey, you still got to go out and play the game in between the line, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. On paper, anything can be written. Between the lines, anything can happen. All right. Yes, the Angels named Kurt Suzuki as their manager, the first Hawaiian-born player to be manager, and he's also a Cal State Fullerton alum. His wife went to Bishop Montgomery. His daughter is on the volleyball team at Bishop Montgomery, in case you didn't know. So stays close to home. Congratulations to him. He's also a customer at Trader Joe's, which is fun because I'm sure I'll never pick his brain anyway.
You might. You never know. Kurt was I think he came to Fullerton the year after I left. I think his freshman year was 04. I had left in 03, I think. But yeah, you always, I mean, that's one. The other baseball team I root for is always Cal State Fullerton baseball. So I'm glad to see Kirk get a job, coaching job, even though it's only for 1 year, I guess, which is kind of weird, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 1 year. It's kind of like there's no faith. What's that quote from Moneyball? It just shows me that you don't have any faith. Like I can only do so much when there's the good, the bad, 30 feet of crap, and then us.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, what's a positive year for him? Over 500?
Over 500. Mike Chalk stays healthy.
Yeah, playoffs will be great. Over 500 will be great as well because they haven't been there in, I guess, a couple of years probably. But
2014.
Yeah, it's almost like 1 year. It's like, man, what can you do? How can you affect change in only 1 year? That's another thing.
And you have to start with the culture. You have to find a way to, it's not putting a pipeline down and saying, oh, you're just gonna we're gonna grow. Like you have to build a foundation. It's really hard in that organization when you have an owner like Artie Moreno who may not be the wisest when it comes to the decisions that he makes, because as I was hearing the other day, like you could have fleeced so many organizations for their best players for Shohei Ohtani for a rental player. That to me just goes to show me that you're thinking illogically. All right. Rizzo's ad read. Are you looking for the perfect spot to catch the game, whether it's World Series, college football Saturdays, NFL Sundays, or the Lakers back in action? Rizzo's Pizza is the spot to be. You've got wall-to-wall TVs, cold drinks, and those legendary slices that hit just right when the game's on the line. Bring the crew, grab a seat, and feel the energy of real fans all weekend or week long. And here's the extra. Mention South Bay Sports Radio or use the code SBSR10 for 10% off your order of $20 or more. Not available with any other offers, where Rizzo's Pizza is your home seat. All right. Before we jump in, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of the coaches who have been so grateful in answering my text messages, my calls, hey, I really, would love to pick your brain about this game coming up, what happened last week. So coaches, if you are listening, thank you very much. I know that it can get annoying having to answer the same questions every week about high school football, but at the same time, I appreciate it knowing that you're helping this show in the long run. All right.
Yeah, just want to add, I mean, the coaches of the South Bay have been just extremely helpful since I first arrived to now. It's a great group across all sports. Some might not get back to you that day, but at least sometime during that week, before you need it, one of the coaches, they will get back to you. So yeah, it's I appreciate all their help.
I agree. It's also fun when I get a phone call from Don Morrow telling me that he's on his morning walk and he's walking up a hill and he's like, I can't hear you. Or, just people that stop into Trader Joe's like, hey, I really appreciate the show you're doing. Like, I thank those people as well, because without you guys, I know it's not opening up the newspaper. I know it's a podcast, but at the same time, it's people like you that made me want to start this. And it's people that I grew up reading about that made me want to continue this, because without reading the Daily Breeze, I wouldn't be where I am today. Without getting that job offer from Tony Siniglio to say, hey, do you want to cover sports for us? I wouldn't be where I am today.
And I will be getting Tony back as soon as the Dodgers season is over.
Just in time for playoffs. And he brings that totem pole. He like hits that totem pole like right above the top. It's like Damian, Tracy, Tony. I'm going to have to fight him to the death. All right. Let's get into your top 15. Leuzinger sits atop the latest Daily Breeze rankings at 6-1 overall and 3-0 in Bay League play with 2 games left following that 47-7 victory over Culver City. The Olympians now turn their attention to number 4, Mira Costa, who is coming off that 21-17 loss to Inglewood. Mustangs are 6-2 overall, 2-1 in league play. This game is the game of the week at Leuzinger, Friday night, 7 p.m. You can see me on the sideline. Buy me a water, shake my hand, say what's up. Tell me how bad the Braves are, or how much you dislike the Kings organization. do whatever, just be nice. Last year's game, Journey Tunga ran for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Olympians scored a 21-13 victory. Against Culver City, Kelton Strickland had 149 yards on the ground and a score, and Journey Tunga added 118 and 2 scores on the ground. From Coach Jason Miller, Mira Costa has a tremendous amount of speed on offense and hard hitting up the middle defensively, particularly from the linebacking core and safety position. And of course, they've got South Bay Hall of Famers Don Morrow, Ray Lee, and Greg Holt on their sideline. Leuzinger seeking their first league title since 1992. First Bay League title since 1992 when they split with Hawthorne and Peninsula. What's going to be the biggest key for Leuzinger in this game, Damian?
It's a second game without Russell Sakona at quarterback. So what did they see last week with Journey Tonga and another kid? I have his name right here. They went two quarterback action with Journey Tonga and Albert Kupu at quarterback last week. And then I mean that they have the offensive line, to run the ball with Kelton Strickland had a big game. So it's going to be, like you say, the Costa defense. Joaquin Wagner Vargas is the guy is everywhere. He had 14 tackles last week against Inglewood. Can the defense slow down losing an offense, which is pretty much going to be on the ground with Tonga and Strickland running the ball? And then on the flip side, can Mira Costa get some off? I mean, they fought back. They were down 14-0 against Inglewood, fought back to take a 17-14 lead. But then that was the second half. They didn't score any touchdowns. The offense sort of bogged down. Inglewood's pressure got to them a little bit. And they also played the second half without A.J. McBean, who took a big hit with sideline. So can the offense get going, get back on track? And let's see, it probably will be another game like it was last year. 21-13 might be the same this year. 21-24, 24-17, 24-20, something like that. It's another big game in the Bay League. The one of two really big games in the Bay League this week.
Some Mira Costa stats for you before we move on. Liam Meeker was held 169 passing yards, throwing a touchdown to his brother Luke, while also throwing an interception. He added 34 yards on the ground and Costa's lone other touchdown. Joaquin Wagner Vargas had 52 yards on the ground, and A.J. McBean, like you said, was limited to 32 yards in the first half alone. Vargas had 14 tackles and a sack. Jackson Reach had 8 tackles. Hunter Taylor had a sack, and Magnus Johnson had an interception. This is going to be a tough one. I know that Jason Miller has a lot of respect for Mira Costa. I think he's, like you said earlier, the South Bay coaches, it's like a community of coaches, of guys that know that they're just trying to get the kids to play their best and to understand that it's about more than football. Personally, and that's just me from the outside looking in and having written about a lot of these coaches and players over the last 15 plus years. Number 2, Inglewood jumps up after a few big wins, including last week's 21-17 victory over Mira Costa. The Sentinels improved to 4-4 overall and 2-1 in the Bay League. Next up is a Palos Verdes 3-15 game. The Sea Kings are 5-3 and 1 in league play. I've got a little bit from Coach Milvan James. Let's hear from Coach. Come on. All right, there we go. That was Coach Milvan James. You can hear more from my interview with Coach, episode 58 on YouTube and anywhere you tune into podcasts. So last week, Lincoln John, 325 yards and a pair of scores. Samaji Welch added 174 yards and a score on the ground. Donovan Randolph and Andre Nickerson combined for 170 yards and both receiving touchdowns. Defensively, Noah Clark, Cyril Howard, and Cleavon Molt had 11 tackles, and Iraq Cordova added an interception. PV, they beat Lawndale. They scored 37 points in the first half, including 28 in the second quarter. They did score in the fourth. Dominic Hernando racked up 211 yards on 22 carries and 2 scores. Morley Boyd and Cameron Hughes each had an interception, as Giorgio Damasio filled in for Ryan Rakowski, serving that 1-game suspension. Ryan will be back in action Friday. Guy Gardner told me Inglewood is very good, fast, physical, and talented. We're trying to get back to work one practice at a time and trying to get better while concentrating on today. It is a test for sure. This game's a must-win in my opinion, but Damian, what do you think is going to be the biggest thing for PV to limit Inglewood's athleticism in this game?
Well, let's flip that on the other side. One thing they can take advantage of is, Inglewood scores. The kid Alan Wilson scored 3 touchdowns against Mira Costa, but all 3 were taken away because of penalties. You can't do that, this late in the year, heading to the playoffs. So if that happens again, PV has to take advantage of that. But other than that, it's they're gonna have to protect Rakowski. Toward the end of that game last week, Inglewood's pressure turned up against Costa, forced Meeker to some throwaways. On the last drive, he threw the ball away 4 times. The last one was intentional grounding. So that sort of hurt Costa's chance of a comeback. But yeah, Inglewood had, eliminate the mistakes. Eliminate the penalties. You get those 3 touchdowns, you win that game by 20 comfortably. You look at last year's game, Inglewood did a good job of taking control of that game early. I think Rakowski threw an interception, didn't have a good night, a good night. So you can expect him to want to come back out Friday with a big game and try and get a little payback against Inglewood from last year's game.
Especially coming off that Leuzinger game where he was ejected in, I think it was the third quarter. Things got a little hot. He was definitely not ready to be messed with. And, I think that he had taken some shots. He was under duress a lot during that game. And I think things just finally got to a boiling point. The referees, they'd had enough. They tossed Tassama Moala, 2 other players, and Rakowski. But in all honesty, from what I was told, there were no punches thrown from Ryan, but the officials didn't necessarily see a reason to rescind the suspension.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things, man. This time of year, to me, emotion's going to run hot. Teams are fighting for playoffs, fighting for league titles and everything. If there's a way you can avoid kicking somebody out, if there's no punches thrown, just talk to them. Tell the coaches, hey, send them out a couple plays or whatever. Just, it's football. Teams are going to run hot at some point.
Exactly. Easier said than done, though, sadly. Still undefeated, and number 3, Torrance, is 8-0, coming off a 48-28 victory over South. The Tartars take a trip to Santa Monica Friday with a chance at the league title. Gibson Turner eclipsed the 1,500-yard mark with 128 yards and now sits at 20 touchdowns on the year after throwing a pair against the Spartans. But Von Reinhardt earned Player of the Week honors after his showing. He had 218 yards on the ground and 2 scores, added a receiving touchdown, and picked off Spartan quarterback Chase Spar. Elias Emerson added a receiving touchdown and added 2 sacks. From Coach Raymond Carter, we are going 1 practice, 1 meeting, 1 lift, 1 day at a time. We have high goals in our program, and overlooking anybody will not get us there. Our approach will be the same every week by staying present, be where our feet are. Knowing what we know about Torrance and how Santa Monica played last week, which of Torrance's big players can we look to have a huge game in this one?
Looking back at that Redondo game, you were there, so man, I would expect Torrance to come out and just, take control of that game early. They're all having a great year. Gibson Turner, Von Reiner, Elias Emerson. You can go up and down the line. Yeah, Presley. What is it? The receiver, DB, Mora. They're all Yeah, they're all having a great season. But, it's always, teams coming back, teams coming home. It's probably senior night for Santa Monica. They're going to want to have a good showing. But if Torrance, as Carter says, stay focused one day at a time, one lift at a time. I also take things one lift at a time too when I go to the gym. Just stay focused on what's ahead, one play at a time. They'll be okay, and that'll set up a showdown next week for that outright league title
against North. This is also Torrance is also tied its school record for most wins in a season. They previously had an 8-win season back in 2011. Was that what we were talking about earlier?
I should have kept that page bookmarked. Hold on one second. It's here we go right here. Yeah, 2011 was the last time they went 8-5.
So that's 13 games. They're only 8 games into the season. They've already hit that mark.
Yeah. And according to this book here, I don't know if anybody has it, Football in the South Bay by Don Leachman. They've never, aside from a couple years ago, they went 10-5 or whatever to win CIF. Other than that year, they've never had more than 8 wins. So
yeah, and this is a regular season, so they finished. I feel like they finished the regular season with 6 wins, and that's in that 6 and couldn't go 6-5. Probably went 5-5, and then they winning.
They played all the way out to the regional final, or did they go all the way to the state regional final, I believe.
All right, moving on. Number 5, Serra dropped from number 2 after losing to Chaminade 37-27, falling to 3-5 overall and 0-3 in the Mission League. The Cavaliers will now host Notre Dame Sherman Oaks Friday. This game is at El Camino again or at Southwest?
Southwest.
Serra led that game 27-10, but it was injuries to Duve Williams and Devon Mucha Jr. that derailed the Serra offense. The pair accounted for nearly 150 yards of offense and 3 touchdowns in the first half. I took a look at that article written by our colleague Tracy McDonald, and Cavalier coach Scott Altenberg did not shy away from the kind of mistakes that were made. He said, when you're used to a level of success, it's hard, but you've got to remember you're dealing with young guys, and they're going to make mistakes as well. And then on what appeared to be a fake punt on 4th and 5 that lost 17 yards, coach said he should have punted. That was not a fake. He acted like a 15-year-old, and that's what happens. Knowing this is one of the better programs in the area since the early 2000s, one can only imagine how tough of a season this is on such a tenured coach. I'm certain Serra's focus is taking care of business Friday, but is there any chance the Cavs get a shot in the postseason?
They're going to have to get to 5-5. They're 3-5 now. I think you got to get to 500 to be considered for an at-large. I haven't checked the latest ratings where they are, which division. Last couple weeks ago, they were like, it would have been a Division 2 team, but as they started losing, their schedule's still tough. But they got to get to at least 5-5 to have a shot. And then that's just considering if there's room for an at-large bid in your division. It's tough. You look at Bishop Montgomery basketball a couple years ago. They had their playoff streak snapped. Young team never really came around. I think they probably missed the last 2 years. Every program goes through it. You can only ride. You don't ride up at the top forever. You got to sort of take a hit as they're doing this season. A lot of young guys get experience, come back next year, and you probably see a different Serra team next year for sure.
Here's hoping, because I know they're young. I know they don't graduate a lot of seniors, but definitely something to work on. And I'm sure coach is going to go back to the drawing board and figure out what can be done, because it is one of the model programs in the area, despite the record that they have.
Yeah. The last couple of years, they sent a lot of guys to college, quarterbacks. On the defensive end, All-Americans, Roger Pleasant at UCLA. During a couple years they had all those receivers a couple years ago that all went to D1 college. This year, Kari Wilder is going to be an All-American. He's going to Ohio State. So it's a lot of guys they've come through there, moved on, and now it's time for the younger guys. There's a lot of 7s and 28s that are trying to get, fighting their way up. Now that next group got to take over and lead the program back next year. that's assuming they don't make just a miraculous run and beat Notre Dame and Bishop Amat, which is possible, but the way they've played, the offensive struggle the last couple of years, last couple of weeks, I don't know. You never know. I mean, high school football, you never really know what can happen, but they've had some struggles offensively this season for sure.
True, and those are two tough tasks, especially Notre Dame and Bishop Amat, two of the better teams in Southern California, especially at the Division I level. All right, number 7, Redondo scored a huge 47-7 victory over Santa Monica last week, improving to 4-4 overall and 2-1 in the Pioneer League. Peninsula comes in for a visit following the Panthers' 34-21 loss to North Torrance. Redondo's first-team offense saw the bench with 4 minutes to play in the first half, with the Seahawks already up 41-0. Cole Leinart threw for just 83 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Bo Osmus added 2 more, but it was Redondo's defense and special teams that led the way. Santi De La Torre recovered a fumble on special teams. Lincoln Esparza had an interception. Mikey Ricardo had a pair of sacks. One of them was a strip sack that Brock Herrera picked up for the touchdown, and Adrian Shumley blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown. This game was out of hand quick. I think Santa Monica went 3-and-out on their first drive. Redondo scored. They recovered the fumble on the ensuing kick, went down and scored. Lincoln Esparza had the interception, brought it back to the 3, and they scored. So that's 3 touchdowns in a matter, like, Santa Monica ran 4 plays, and Redondo had a 21-0 lead. Like, that right there, and I know that we talked about that earlier with the Torrance bulb, but I think that if Torrance's defense can exploit the mistakes that Santa Monica makes, that game's going to be a boat race quick.
Yeah. You look at Redondo, they got a good shot here to sort of set themselves up for a good playoff run. I mean, they bounced back with the North Wind. Last week, they followed that with Santa Monica. Then they got Peninsula and South coming up. You go into the playoffs on a 4-game winning streak. You might fall in what division, 5 or 6, somewhere that they probably got a chance to make a good run in. So we'll see how they close out the regular season here. But one thing that could hurt them is if they're all blowouts and you're pulling your starters so early, then they're not getting a lot of reps over these final weeks. But we'll see how this final season, the final game weeks of the season play out for Redondo. But they're setting themselves up for I think, which might be a pretty good playoff run.
Before we move on to the Peninsula side of this, I remember when I got locked into Redondo, I was called Coach Ellison, and, it comes and gets me out. He goes, "I'm really sorry you had to see that game. That was the Costa game." And I could tell that he had such high expectations for this team, but as a coach who's played in college, who's played in the pros, he has to kind of level his expectations, understanding that he's still dealing with teenagers and things may not always happen the way that you want them to. Fast forward a couple weeks, I think it was the Torrance game, and he kind of he called out the team in our interview, and I played that on our show, and he just said, we're not doing anything right. We're not playing good football, and they were hurt as well. And then fast forward to the Banning game, was it the Banning game? It was Banning and Torrance. So Banning, he moves up to the booth, and he's like, "I'm able to see the field better. I'm able to dissect the offense, the defense, see what other teams are running, and have a better game plan." The Torrance game, he was still annoyed, but then as things went on, they start to get healthy. They start to click on all cylinders. It's not just how can Cole Leinart do, it's how is this offense going to do, because now you're healthy. You've got Adrian Ortiz, Bo Osmus, Lincoln Esparza. You've got guys that are healthy that can handle the ball, Tyler Harper, and you can go out and make plays, and then your defense shows up in a way that you haven't seen since last season. So I think, like I wrote about, I think Redondo's clicking on all cylinders, and it's the right time of the year for them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Peninsula's Cameron Daulachi ran for 71 yards and a pair of touchdowns, and the Panther defense recovered 3 fumbles. Like I said, this game could get ugly fast, similar to the Santa Monica game. Coach Wagner says it's just about coming in and trying to control the clock with our offense. We have to keep Redondo off the field as much as we can and play hard defense. They've got a lot of talent. They're big up front. So we have to play the game. We have to play that game with them and work hard in the trenches. It's going to come down to our lines doing their best on both sides of the ball, and that could keep the game in control. All right. If you were a betting man, what would be the point spread?
No.
knowing how
Torrance.
tough a healthy Redondo team is.
I hate talking point spreads when dealing with high school sports, but this say a lot. That's all I'll say.
All right. Coming off that 34-21 victory over Peninsula, North Torrance now turns its attention to number 14, South Torrance. The Saxons come in at 5-3 overall and 1-2 in Pioneer League play. South comes in at 3-5 overall, looking for their first Pioneer League victory. Some North stats from last week. Vincent Aliman had 106 receiving yards and a score. Cole Mateale Juarez added 81 yards on 3 catches. Jason Lewis ran for 80 yards and 2 scores, while North's defense held Peninsula to 186 yards. There is a ton of familiarity between these two staffs. I'm going to read some thoughts from Todd Croce. We know South will get the most out of their team and play as hard as humanly possible until the final whistle. He jokingly said he's hoping Coach Mishler gets tickets to see the Dodgers in Toronto instead of attending this game. But he knows both teams won't have many surprises due to the awareness of what each other possess in terms of ability, scheme, and determination. He's expecting a typical crosstown battle. So throw the records out the window. Some South stats. Chase Spar threw for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns, but also threw a pair of interceptions as the Spartans dug themselves into a 20-0 hole in the first quarter against Torrance. South's ground game was held to 20 yards. The Spartans only ran the ball 11 times. Jacob Karakis had 118 yards receiving, and Denver Schneider added 109. South coach Matt Mishler was on the staff at North for 16 years and said that he has many friends, former coaching colleagues, and former players on the staff. He knows this game is going to be a real challenge. He knows what a good job they do at North, and he would not be here today if Coach Croce did not give him the opportunities that he did. He followed with, I think this game will be even more challenging because North is in a position they're not used to. They need to win knowing who they have next week, Torrance, and where they are in the standings. They will be prepared and ready for us. One of the keys for South, Mitchler said, is to take care of the ball. He said South turned the ball over too many times, resulting in Torrance touchdowns. The Spartans also have to do a better job up front and execute for all 48 minutes. He also said defensively, they have to force more turnovers, limit big plays, especially after the kind of game Von Reinhardt had. This game could be a tipping point in both teams' chances at the playoffs. If you lose, you make your last game a must-win, and even getting a chance at an at-large bid in the playoffs is not a sure thing. All right, who needs this game more?
I want to say North. One thing about teams like South and also Hawthorne, they're gonna probably check in as a Division 12 or 13, maybe. If you get the 4 wins for South, maybe that gives them a shot to get in. Maybe, not really sure, but I think North we need it because of what's ahead next week with Torrance. But maybe that sort of gives South an opening that maybe they catch North looking ahead. They put up some points in their last all their league games. They put up a lot of points. I mean, last week the points came in late, but look at the game against Santa Monica, and then there was a game against West, a non-league game. They put up a lot of points as well. So I think North needs it more. But if South can get it, that'll certainly help their cases. And then maybe that somehow, I mean, they probably won't end up being 500, but maybe that gets them a look sort of down the road there in one of those higher divisions. But yeah, North really needs it, especially after, losing to Redondo, their other big league game there. And then looking at this one here.
Yeah, this one could definitely be, I think you're right about making a lower division playoff run, especially for a team like South. Division 12, 13, 14 could be calling their name, and they've got the talent to run the table. But again, get a win in non-league, get a win in league to make it a little bit easier, because I think Santa Monica last year, they went 0-5 it was either last year or the year before. They went 0-5 and ran the table and wound up playing a championship game. All right, moving on. Number 9, Carson improved to 5-3 overall and 2-0 in the Marine League after beating Banning 40-0 in one of the most storied rivalries in the city section. The Colts, who scored all 40 of their points in the first half, including 33 in the second quarter, now turn their attention to Narbonne. The Gauchos come in winless in 8 games after falling to Gardena 48-26. Chris Fields threw for 154 yards and a pair of touchdowns against Banning. He added another on the ground. Eric Myers led a rushing attack that racked up 272 yards with 99 and 2 scores. Narbonne has allowed 48 points in both of its Marine League games. Coach Lowe tells me every week is a big week when you only get 10 regular season games. They're all important. We're just trying to stress the importance of getting better every day. All right, Damian, in years past, this was Narbonne's game to lose. How big is this for you? If you're Carson, how big of a game is this for you?
It's extremely big because, you got league title and maybe the city #1 seed on the line next week against San Pedro. So you got to take care of business, which I expect them to do. They've been rolling along here in the league. But yeah, it's certainly different than what it used to be because you knew Narbonne back in the day. Narbonne will come into this game and they would dominate the Marine League, but that's not the case. Now teams are sort of getting their payback a little bit. But yeah, I expect Carson to win this one and setting up the big showdown next week against San Pedro.
Yep, week 10, San Pedro, Carson. That's going to be a fun one. All right, number 10, fresh off a bye week. San Pedro is 4-4 overall and 2-0 in the Marine League. The Pirates visit Gardena, and the Panthers are looking to make some noise in league, sitting at 3-5 overall and 2-1 in league play. Corey Walsh said the Pirates need to start fast, sustain tempo and high energy. He also mentioned executing at a high level, thinking less and playing faster, which reminds me of another Bull Durham quote. Don't think meat, you'll only hurt the ball club. This is the last game of the regular season for Gardena, who could solidify second place with an upset of San Pedro. Knowing how San Pedro's played of late and the records it's set, but also how proud of a program Gardena is and the success it had just 2 years ago, what's going to be the tipping point in this game?
Can Gardena slow down San Pedro's offense? Nobody really has all season. I know maybe back in early part of the game, that season against Torrance, maybe they were held to like 13 points, I think.
El Medina, they scored 14.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Those 2 big non-league opponents there. But yeah, I think San Pedro, same boat as Carson's in. They're going to come out, take care of business, and set up that showdown next week. And then for Gardena, of course, the last game of the year, but this probably puts them in a mix for somewhere in Division 1 for city playoffs. And who knows? In the city, you can make a run. When they made their championship run a couple years ago, they were like Division 3, I think, in the city and went on and won it. So, set them, get a week off, going to the playoffs. You'd be ready for that first week. Maybe make a run, maybe Division 1, maybe with Banning might be Division 1 as well. Then that sets, maybe there's a playoff run for either Gardena or Banning in the city playoffs.
Banning definitely has to get healthy. That's one thing that they're not. And that's hard because they've lost 5 straight, especially after starting the year 4-0. All right, moving on. Number 11, El Segundo takes a break from its league schedule to visit El Rancho Pico Rivera. The Eagles come into this game 7-1 overall, 3-0 in the Ocean League, and are coming off a 35-0 victory over Centennial. The team's 3rd consecutive shutout, with a showdown with West Torrance looming in Week 10 and a league title on the line. This could be El Segundo's chance to fine-tune some things, knowing next week could determine their first round playoff fate. Last week against Centennial, quarterback Ryan Wyasek threw for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns, improving his touchdown-interception ratio to 3-0. He added another touchdown on the ground. Chase Mattoon led all receivers with 70 yards and a score. And Roman Ader, Lincoln Quintenance, and Cameron Nelson each added touchdowns of their own. Sean Helbs led the defense with 6 tackles and an interception. Spencer Osborne added 5 tackles. Jake Danford and Jeremy Hernandez each had sacks. Coach Roy Schoonmaker told me, our players are committed to earning shutouts this year. They've done a great job with alignment, tendency recognition, as well as identifying key players and doing their best to limit them before they get started. The defensive end of the field has been a point of pride this year. How big of a test is this for El Segundo, looking to fine-tune things before that matchup with West?
Yeah, it's also good that they were able to get a game set up here because something with only 4-5 teams in the league, so a lot of teams had a chance to add a non-league team. El Rancho's 5-3, 2-1 in the Del Rio League, along with La Serna. I think PV played La Serna a couple years ago in a playoff game.
They
So
played them
you guys
last year.
played them last year too, right?
They played them. Yeah, I think there was 2 years in a row they played them, and they lost to them 1 year. They beat them the next year.
Yeah. So you got to expect them to be, tough opponent. Nothing's going to be easy, especially going there. But yeah, it's a good test, especially for El Segundo. I mean, you look at the quarterback, Ryan. How you pronounce his name? Wyachek.
Wyachek.
Yeah, 23 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's impressive. No matter what level you're playing at, to take care of the ball as he's doing, giving his team a chance to win every week. And like I said, the defense, 3 consecutive shutouts. That's also a good, impressive run. Two of El Rancho's losses have been by 7 points. They lost to La Serna 30-13 earlier this month. So, it's going to be a tough battle, a tough test for El Segundo. They just want to get through it healthy to set up next week, another league showdown next week with West.
There we go. All right. Number 12, Mary Star heads into a bye week after a 73-0 victory over Bosco Tech. The Stars sit at 6-2 overall, 3-0 in league. This was the regularly scheduled matchup with Bishop Montgomery. Coach Tyler Sestich told me there was a running clock with 7 minutes left in the second quarter. Mary Star led 48-0 at halftime. Tanner Rollins threw 222 yards and 5 touchdowns. Makai Huff had 2 of those. Demetrius Evans, Jeremy Coughlin, Amari Powell, and Seth Guevara added receiving touchdowns. Powell led all receivers with 82 yards. Mary Star closes out the season next week against St. Bernard and has already clinched at least a share of the program's first league title since 2019. I did my best to get Tyler Sestich on. Our schedules did not align. I'm going to try to get him on for next week because he's fun and he's a regularly scheduled guest of South Bay Sports Radio. All right. Making an appearance in Damian's top 15 is Westchester. After their 29-26 victory over Hamilton, the Comets, who host Venice Friday night, sit at 4-4 overall, 2-1 in the Western League. They're currently tied with Venice for second place. That game is set for 7 p.m. Stats are only updated through 6 games, but Wyatt Orr leads the Comets with 720 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. Marcus Randall has 5. Justin Key has 4. As a team, the Comets have rushed for nearly 1,600 yards. Randall leads the defense with 29 tackles. Makai Ware has 3 sacks, and Makai Tucker has 3 interceptions. All right, what do we know about Westchester, and how big of a game is this going to be tomorrow night?
Yeah, first season over there for Coach Cameron over there. The Western League is always one of the toughest leagues in the city. I think they've already played Palisades. So this is pretty much the battle for second with Venice. Let's see if they can continue. Getting the win against Hamilton was big because Hamilton's had generated a lot of publicity so far this season. To get that win was big for the Comets. So let's see, can they close the season out? Another team maybe looking around, maybe Division I somewhere for the city playoffs when they're out in a couple weeks here. So let's see if the Comets can continue the momentum that they picked up last week.
There we go. And closing things off, West Torrance is coming off a 50-0 victory over Beverly Hills. Next up is Centennial. The Warriors sit at 4-4 overall, 2-0 in the Ocean League, with that Week 10 matchup with El Segundo looming. West jumped out to a 17-0 advantage in the first quarter, led 38-0 at half. Do we have time to hear from Coach Todd Butler?
Sure, why not?
All right, that was Coach Todd Butler. Check him out. He was one of my first guests. Episode 3, South Bay Sports Radio, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Quarterback Dominic Alia threw for 188 yards and 5 touchdowns last week. Dylan Goby, he had 2 carries for 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, added a receiving touchdown as well. Blake Ely led all receivers with 77 yards and a touchdown. Jack McInnes, Jack Shipstat, and Ryan Kearns also had receiving touchdowns. Shipstat added an interception. Ely recovered a fumble. And Muhammad Iftawi and Trevor Muller each had quarterback sacks. Centennial is coming off that shutout loss to El Segundo, but we know how high school football works. What's going to be the key against the Apaches for the Warriors to take care of business?
Yeah, just like Todd said, I mean, you can't overlook anybody, which they probably won't. You know, in the current stage of the Ocean League, it's pretty much. I mean, it's El Segundo and West, for sure, for certain, unless something crazy happens. But yeah, I expect West to take care of business, and as I said earlier, to set up a showdown with El Segundo next week for the league title.
And that will wrap the top 15. We've got week 9 games tomorrow. Week 10 is very interesting. I'm going to hit some flag football updates and volleyball updates, and then I'll close out the show. But we've got Inglewood moving on. They visit West Ranch Saturday. The Sentinels won 27-0 over Laguna Hills. St. Mary's won 6-0 over Kennedy in Division 4. They visit Temecula Valley. Leuzinger won 18-13 in Division 6 action. They host Brentwood Saturday. And in Division 4 action, Serra defeated Ramona 34-20. Serra hosts ML King Saturday. This game will be played at Serra. I had to make sure that was possible. In volleyball, Mira Costa defeated Newport Harbor. They swept them, and they will be at Marymount Tuesday. San Juan Hills visits Redondo Tuesday as well. Bishop Montgomery swept Xavier Prep. They host Murrieta Mesa. I've got a little bit from Coach Tawnee Luafalemana. If you've got the time to listen to a little bit from that interview, sir.
Let's go.
All right, that was Coach Tawnee Luafalemana. She's a 2014 Carson grad. She played at Utah as well, and you can hear more of my conversation with Coach. Episode 56, I will be at that match tonight. That will be a fun one. Also, in Division 3, North Torrance defeated Agura 3-1 in 4 sets. North will visit Flint Ridge Prep on Saturday. Chadwick swept Kennedy. They host Corona on Saturday. Weisburn Da Vinci swept Oxnard. They will visit Bishop Diego on Saturday. Cams In Division 7, swept Azusa. They will visit Geffen Academy. Vistamar needed 4 sets to beat Patriot. They will visit Lighthouse Christian. Lawndale defeated CDSR in 4, and they will visit Nogales on Saturday. That will do it. Water polo brackets are released tomorrow, Friday the 24th. We'll have more next week. Damian, again, thank you. This will do it for episode 59. Be sure to follow along for updates on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Breeze Preps, South Bay Sports Radio. Until next time, have a great day and enjoy the South Bay.
And go Dodgers.
Go team.